Hello, everyone, and welcome to training tape number one for the Wisconsin River Officials Association. My name is Gabe Murray. I'm the huddle coordinator for the association. And we did train tape number one about 3 weeks ago, and that covered the new rule changes that we have for this upcoming year for the 2022 football season. So now we're going to switch gears a little bit. We're going to go towards the points of emphasis. You're watching this, it's likely Thursday or Friday of week one. It's time to get on the field and get out there and apply these new rule changes, apply these points of emphasis, everything that we've been preparing for these last couple of weeks. It's time to bring it out onto the field. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Our quick disclaimers, as always, when watching this video, it does not count for any credit toward any level advancement or any clinic for the WIAA or any state association. The training is for a 5-person officiating crew with the umpire in the defensive backfield. No clip is ever meant to pick on any one official, group of officials, crew, coach, or player. We are trying to learn from these. We are not trying to, in any way, shape, or form, downgrade anyone that we see in this video. They're all learning opportunities. We can all learn and grow from our own clips and other people's clips. And I am not a trained clinician from any association. I'm not sponsored by the WIAA or anything like that. This is purely, I'm just making this as one of you, trying to help you guys learn. And hopefully you can grow, take a thing or two from this that you can apply to yourself or to your crew. And I didn't add this on the last training tape, but if you have questions, please always feel free to contact me. My email is right there. If you have clips too, I love looking through clips. If you think you have a clip that you can put onto one of these videos, send it over. I'll gladly look through it, and if I think it's a good one to use, I'll use it. So let's get into the actual training tape. Today's focus is the WIAA and NFHS points of emphasis. We have 3 this year: targeting and defenseless players, uniform and equipment issues, and unsportsmanlike behaviors. We're going to go through each one of these, and then at the end, I'll kind of do just a small recap. But the first point of emphasis that I want to get into is uniforms and equipment. I want to get this one out of the way because this one doesn't have any video associated with it. Remember, we did have a rule change with uniforms, and that said the single-digit number 0 is now legal. The double zero is still illegal. So keep that in mind. If you see a double 0, that's illegal. We have to get on that right away. But 0 is good now. So just some rules to review that I put into the rule book. Rules 1, 3, 1, 4, and 1, 5 all deal with this point of emphasis. It pretty much encompasses it almost entirely. Review those rules. The thing that I have is that I have someone on my crew, and it's my umpire, is very knowledgeable with this. Everyone on your crew should be knowledgeable when it comes to uniform and equipment. But my umpire is the guy who, when it comes to the pregame, he is circling the field and he's watching for this stuff. Because if we can get these things, say like an illegal visor, if we can see that in the pregame and get that taken care of in the pregame rather than in the first quarter, where then all of a sudden, if a coach is questioning it, we have to stop the game and we have to talk to this coach and everyone's watching us, versus in the pregame when no one's watching us, then that makes us look that much better in the long run because we're getting noticed less. And another thing is that if you do see equipment in, say, the first quarter that needs to be addressed, send them out of the game. Just send them out of the game. Tell the coach, through the radio, if your crew uses radios, tell your sideline guy, say, hey, I'm sending out 45 because he can't get his chin strapped up. And you'll be like, okay. And then relay that to the coach and take care of that. Remember that there should never be any blood on any uniform. That's an automatic. We gotta get them out of the game. We have to get that taken care of, and they can't come back in the game until the blood is off of the uniform. And just a quick note with this in general is that, remember, if we have a defensive stoppage of game because of a mouse guard out or a chin strap loose, blood on the uniform, we go to 40 seconds now, right? We give that 40-second 2 hands in the air for the play clock. So keep that in mind. Remember, that was a rule change this year. I just want to show very briefly, visors were a big topic in Wisconsin last year. These are some examples of illegal visors. First, obviously, we have this tinted one right here. This, by all means, is definitely illegal, right? Because that visor has to be see-through, clear. We got to be able to see the eyes. This one had a lot of people puzzled because from 10 yards away, you could see their eyes. But when you got 20, 25 yards away, you couldn't see their eyes. At any point, if you cannot see that person's eyes, the eye shield's got to come off. So these eye shields are not legal. And I guarantee you, some of you are going to see weeks 1 and 2, you're going to see kids with these visors on, and you got to tell them, hey, it's got to go. The only way that any kid can wear any sort of tinted visor or anything like that is if they have a written exemption from the WIAA, not a medical excuse from a doctor, a written exemption from the WIAA, which often involves getting a medical exemption. So keep that in mind when we're talking about uniforms and equipment. Our second point of emphasis, and now we're going to kind of get more into the rules and fouls and stuff that we have to focus on this year. Targeting and defenseless players. So I kind of encompass these both into the same thing. Yes and no, because to have targeting, we have to almost have a defenseless player. There are some certain situations where the player targeted may not be defenseless, but more oftentimes than not, we're going to have a defenseless player. So I think it's important that first we go through Rule 9.4, Article 3, which just states that no player shall target an opponent or execute a blindside block outside of the free blocking zone with forceful contact unless initiated with open hands. So that's a big thing with the blindside block rule. And I know blindside block isn't necessarily a point of emphasis, but I feel it's important that we still talk about it because a lot of people are executing these blindside blocks. I think it's more common than targeting in high school. But what a lot of people sometimes don't realize is that an open hand, open hand to the shoulders, even if the defender is not necessarily, or whatever player is being blocked is not looking at that person who is blocking them and hits them with two hands in the shoulder and knocks them over, that's legal because it's forceful contact, but it's initiated with open hands. Now, if we have a shoulder check or if we have a lead with the crown and helmet, then we got a problem. Or if we have launch. But if we simply have someone who is just trying to block with the two hands open, initiated like this, we got to remember that more times than not is going to be legal. Remember, whenever we have targeting or blindside block, personal foul, the penalty is 15 yards, but it's not an automatic first down. I see this a lot more times than not misruled. You do not give an automatic first down for targeting or blindside block. Do I think it should be? Absolutely. But no one cares what I think. No one cares what you think. If you think that it should be a automatic first down and you go and you enforce that in the game because you're like, oh, I think it should be an automatic first down. It doesn't matter. It's not an automatic first down. Keep that in mind. I don't think anyone has that mentality. But just keep that, separate your high school rules from your college rules. When we get talking about targeting, the definition of targeting, which is found in Rule 2, it's forcible contact to that head neck area. And I'm going to kind of go through the process for you guys for targeting. And then we're going to kind of jump into a little bit of clips where I can show you targeting defenseless players, stuff like that. So I took this from Dean Blandino. I was on a call with him. And he was going over this with about 150 officials when they were talking about targeting. If you think it's a point of emphasis in high school, you should see what it's like at the college level. If you don't work college, it's huge. If you do work college, you know exactly what I'm talking about, how much that they stress this because they want to get this right. They want to get it out of the game. And I think when we're talking about targeting, we break it down into three parts. Okay, the body posture of the player initiating the contact and just kind of some sub bullet points there. Is that head? Is it up? Okay, do we see the eyes or is it down? Is it looking at the ground? Are we looking at a charge with the crown of the helmet? And that leads into, what is he leading with? And then the trajectory of it. Is he launching upward? Is he loading up his feet and is he launching into his defender? Or excuse me, the offensive player with the ball or the blocker? Or is he running through? Is he almost like doing a run through tackle? Is he attacking with force? If he's moving forward, upward, downward, it's an attack, right? If we're moving side to side, we're not necessarily attacking, right? And then is it stationary? Because if it's stationary, say an offensive player is running at someone who's trying to tackle, if he's stationary and he's trying to absorb and brace that contact, it's really hard to give targeting for that, right? Because there's no upward thrust into them. They're not launching, they're stationary, they're absorbing that contact. And then what part of the helmet is made, or what part of the helmet is the contact made with? Is it made with that crown of the helmet? Is it made with the face mask? remember, if we have helmet to helmet and we see that upward thrust, we're more oftentimes than not going to have targeting. If we have helmet to the head shoulder area, if we have contact that is right about here that causes that head to snap back, okay, then we're more often than not going to have targeting. But if we have a hit on a defenseless player and it's not necessarily contact to the head neck area, then we have a blindside block. It's important that we understand what a defenseless player is. And remember, that's someone, whether it's a receiver attempting to catch the ball, it is a player that is running downfield, right at an angle, trying to catch a ball carrier, and is just not aware of a blocker in its vicinity. It's basically any player who is deemed defenseless. And I think that's pretty obvious when we look at almost on the field, and we see a lot of clips on film that we are able to distinguish pretty distinctly whether the player is defenseless or not defenseless. So let's get into some targeting clips. And I have a couple good ones for you guys to go through. And I think you'll like these clips because another misconception I often see is that targeting is often on the defense, is what everyone thinks. Well, in these examples, this first one is almost like it's on offense. So in this first clip here, remember some important things. We're going to see a breakout run here. Okay, we see a run for potentially the goal line here. We always need to get our eyes on blockers, because once this offensive player here is going to get out and kind of into this open space, they're going to be good. They're not going to be committing any fouls unless it's an unsportsmanlike or something like that. But that's when we need to get our eyes starting to look on these blockers. You know, here's a blocker here that we maybe want to get our eyes on, and here's a blocker here that we maybe want to get our eyes on. Remember, the team in black is on offense. So we'll see this run break out here. And now we're really thinking, okay, this guy's going to make it to the end zone here. Let's get our eyes on other players. And you'll see here, I want you to pay close attention to this guy right here. He is going to be the offensive player who does a bad thing. And boom, right there. Big hit. And you'll notice we don't have a flag on the field right away. Again, that's a big hit right there. And that is costly if we miss that, because that is what we are trying to exactly get out of the game. As far as responsibility goes, the back judge does need to have the ball crossing the plane. So I don't necessarily fault him for not seeing this. I would say that, you could, don't get tunnel vision with this, right? We know that he's more times than not probably going to cross the goal line. So if you don't get tunnel vision here, you might be able to see this. But another official who I think really should have a flag on this is our line judge right here. And my reason for this is that, sure, if this ball carrier was right about here and he was close to perhaps stepping out of bounds, absolutely, I want my line judge to have an eye on that. But because he's so far away from the sideline, I really want our eyes to go on these blockers here. And I would almost stop and I would just watch and make sure that nobody commits any, bad acts or anything like that, like this, for targeting, stuff like that. Now, fortunately, there was a flag on this play, and we do miss things. So I don't want to fault these officials for not calling this. I did speak to the crew chief who sent me this, and he said that his officials got straight lined, and that happens. I 100% get it. And that's where it leads me into my second point with this clip. The referee is actually who threw this flag, and he's about 30 yards downfield. If you see a play like this and you don't see a flag, I don't care if you're the opposite sideline official, the referee, the umpire, you throw that flag as far as you can so that you show the Packers why you should be quarterback after Aaron Rodgers leaves and we should trade Jordan Love, and make sure that we see that we have some yellow on this because it's needed. And in this case, the referee did his job and he came up and he cleaned up the play, and kudos to him. Regardless, we have a hit on a defenseless player for sure, because this player is running. He's looking at the ball. He has no idea that and aware of this guy at all. He is distinctly looking right here. So that leads us into our next question, right? Do we have targeting? Well, we don't get the views that we all wish we had, right? Whether it's, and we're lucky if we get 2 views. In college, it seems like you get 10. But when we look at targeting, okay, do we see a launch? Yes, we do. All right, the body posture, his head is up, but he's starting to go down. He's starting to squat down into that position, and he's starting to launch there. Where is the contact made? Well, it appears that the contact is made in that shoulder area, because if you see how that defender's head snaps back. It's almost like, he got hit right below because his head snaps back like that. And then what part of the body is this player contacted with? Well, it looks like shoulder. It doesn't look like it's helmet to helmet. It looks roughly like it is shoulder. So for this, I think it's a toss up. I would personally go blindside block because it's shoulder is what is contacting the defenseless player who's getting hit. If we had helmet contact, I would go targeting 100%. But because we have shoulder contact, I personally am going to go blindside block. It doesn't necessarily, I shouldn't say it doesn't matter, but the penalty is the same. But if we're talking really specific, I think we go blindside block here and we're just fine. But at minimal, remember, we just got to have a flag on this play. Our next play here is going to involve scrimmage kicks. Now, this is one where people often don't realize that there's a lot of stuff that can happen here. And what you're going to see here is a kick. Good job by our line judge of going down the field right away. And we're going to see this player try and field this ball. This player right here is going to try and field the ball. And let's keep a close eye right here on this player right here. Boom. Okay. Again, got to have a flag. All right. And we got to be ready for things like this. You can't be jogging down and expect for an easy recovery. You got to be ready for stuff like this, whether it's the back judge, whether in this case it's the line judge because they're coming all the way down the field. We have to be ready for these types of plays. And right here, clearly, this player is attempting to field this ball. He is defenseless. He's not looking up at that defender or that gunner who is running down and trying to tackle him. He's just trying to field that ball. So when we talk about targeting, so let's break it down a little bit. Where's his head? Well, his head appears to almost be upright. It looks like he's facing and looking at his opponent. Oops, sorry, I'm having some huddle difficulties here. So where is his head? His head looks like it's up, right? And it seems that his face mask almost makes contact with that sternum area of his body. When we look at, body posture, what's his intent here? Is he launching? Well, it actually almost looks like he's running through, right? We don't really see a launch here or anything like that. We see that this gunner is really just launching through, or excuse me, not launching through, running through this player right here. And then where's the contact made? Well, it appears that the contact is really made in the chest. It doesn't really look like the contact is made forcible in that head, neck, shoulder area. So with all things considered, I wouldn't go targeting here. That's my philosophy with this. I think for sure a flag, kick catch interference, personal foul, anything like that. But the biggest thing again is we got to have a flag on this play. Make sure that we communicate, whether it's the back judge and the line judge, if they both have a flag on this, make sure that we understand what we are going to have and then move forward with it. Some good clips to review, but that should also kind of keep in mind that not everything is always targeting, but there are some few things that can make it almost targeting, if that makes sense. So let's move into our third point of emphasis, which is UNS fouls. And it seems like this is a point of emphasis every single year, but we have to do what we have power to do in handling these types of things. So when we talk about coaches, My philosophy is I put my best communicators on my sidelines. I run my own crew out of lacrosse, and I have my best communicators on the sidelines for the reason that coaches get amped up. And I think coaches get amped up because we always see in practice that they're in control the whole time. If they want to replay it down, they can replay it down. They don't really care. And they try to simulate real game situations, but these 48 minutes that are going on the field on Friday nights, they are not in control. Only the kids can control what happens. So I think that's why they can be a little bit amped up sometimes. So I always put my best communicators on the sidelines. That doesn't mean that I don't have good officials that are in the middle. It's just that I feel that the guys who are on the sideline personally are going to be able to handle the coaches the best and calmly in those situations, and we can handle those things moving forward. Dead ball officiating is huge when we talk about players, right? If we have a pile in the middle and we think that things are getting a little bit chippy, umpire and referee crash those piles. What I love about radios is that if we see that perhaps maybe A42 and B56 are getting into it a little bit, we can get on the radio and say, hey, everyone, we got to watch A42 and B56. They're getting into it a little bit. And then everyone on the crew is now aware. And that's why communication is so crucial when it comes to that stuff. Use our tools. If we have to give a warning, give a warning. If we have to tag UNS 15 yards, we have to tag a UNS 15 yards. It's just how it is. Always try to stay a step down, talk at the voice level that I'm talking at when it comes to, addressing coaches and players and stuff like that. But really, sportsmanship is always going to be an issue, and I don't see it getting any better anytime soon. So the best thing that we can do is we can just handle it and move on. So we can look at some clips with this. And I do have a couple good ones that I think you guys will perhaps appreciate. And this first one here is just an example of why after the play, we always need to keep our eyes for anything that could be obnoxious or unjust. I want you guys to keep a close eye on these two players right here. And you'll see this play end, and the referee should immediately, he should have warning lights going off his head saying, hey, something might happen here. And you'll see that he looks away. We never want to look away in that situation. I don't know why the referee is looking over this way. I don't know if he's worried about the chains or what it is, but we should be focused on these two players right here because as you'll see, we see the helmet actually was slammed to the ground, and I apologize, I skipped by it too fast. You'll see the helmet gets slammed to the ground here. This white player slams him into the ground. We can't be missing stuff like this. This is stuff where we're getting phone calls as to why we did not call this. So I think it's very important that we can never take our eyes off of this play. It's definitely a personal foul, right? Or a UNS, whatever you choose to tag on it. I'm tagging personal foul if I catch this. And perhaps maybe an ejection. It's definitely worth a conversation if another official has eyes on it, for sure. But perhaps it's a potential ejection, but at minimal, we just got to have a flag on this. This did not have a flag. So we need to make sure that we don't miss this stuff, because if we miss this stuff, that's where things get even more chippy from there. And then we have an even worse offense the next time down. So our last play for this training tape is going to come on a sideline scrum. And there are a couple things that I want to point out here. When we have plays to the sideline, we always want to make sure that we can widen ourselves out a little bit, that we can see this whole contact. We don't want to get in front of the play by any means, and we certainly don't want to be right on top of it. That is huge when it comes to officiating sideline interactions, especially like one that we have here. A couple things to note when it comes to first off officiating this. I really like how our line judge takes a step back there. You notice how he works himself back a little bit. He widens himself out so that he doesn't get tunnel vision on the ball carrier and he can see the whole play. And then a great job of after he goes out of bounds that he keeps eyes on this play. And you'll notice that I'll kind of let the clip play through a little bit. It does appear to be a late hit. That seems certainly unnecessary. But then what I love is that he keeps his eyes on the play, right? He doesn't stop officiating after he flies up that dead ball foul. That live ball foul. He is keeping his eyes right on that play there. So when it comes to this, we certainly see late contact out of bounds, and that falls under our sportsmanship issue, right? We don't need this unnecessary type of contact. But then we always got to remember that someone might retaliate. And it's great that there appeared to be some retaliation there. We can't quite have a good video angle at it. But the line judge appeared to first throw his beanbag for some reason, but then finally throw his actual flag. And that indicated that we had the 2 flags on the field, which is great. I love that we got on top of that stuff right away, and that's what we got to do. If we can catch this stuff the first time, that's going to be all the better for us when it comes to, answering to perhaps an assigner or a coach or something like that. If we can just catch it right away, then that just sets us up much better. And just some things, the umpire's following this through. I like how the umpire just kind of sits there. He observes the whole play. And then the referee sees that we're going to have some issues and then just immediately kills the clock and makes sure that we get everything sorted out, that the play is stopping, and that we need to have a conversation, stuff like this. When it comes to getting the stuff right as a crew, just make sure that you get together, you talk about what you have, and you enforce it correctly. Whether it's 1 live ball and 1 dead ball, whether it's offsetting dead ball, offsetting live ball, just talking, making sure that you go through this stuff, that is super important. I will say that this was handled pretty well, but we just need to make sure that we don't miss anything like this when it comes to the regular season, especially when we have rivalry games, stuff like that. Okay, that is it. I wish everyone the best when it comes to week 1 and week 2 and week 3 and so on. I plan to release training tape number 2 somewhere around the beginning of September, and I don't have a topic. I'm just going to pick out kind of 3 or 4 plays, and I'm just going to kind of go over them. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what transpires over the first couple of weeks here. Have a great year, and please always feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. Have a great year, everyone. Thank you so much for your support.